My, how times have changed. Joy Taylor, who was once quite doubtful of Tua Tagovailoa, has now gone publicly on air and defended Tua Tagovailoa getting a big extension from the Miami Dolphins. We'll talk about that. Plus, we'll go into Neal's, whiskey-induced meltdown following the post game in the Dolphins After Dark chat. We're going to talk about that. That's going to be a fun one. Plus, is potentially one of the worst games weather-wise in the playoffs going to force Mike McDaniel and the Miami Dolphins' hand to finally feed my guy De'Von Achane? We'll talk about it all. Smash the like button. Subscribe if you're new. Let's get Fin2 deep.
Touchdown! Got it! You have got to be kidding me. Jalen Waddle has a Dolphin touchdown. And he will score! Field on the near side, that open, touchdown! The run from Tua Tagovailoa. Touchdown! He's going deep. He's got it for a touchdown again! Touchdown!
Beautiful day to be a Dolphin fan. Let's go!
You're listening to Fin2 Deep.
Tua back to throw. Blitz coming. They get to him. No, he takes off running. And he's in. Touchdown, Miami.
With the sixth pick in the 2021 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins select Jalen Waddle.
Giving you unfiltered, informed, and controversial takes on the Miami Dolphins and the NFL Draft. Here's Reason and Neal.
What is good, Fit Nation? What's good? It's your boy Reason. And we are back here for another one. Neal, this is our second ever show before a playoff game. I mean, let's make this a tradition, but let's get some more under our belt this year. Dolphins coming off a, disappointing to say the least loss. We all heard your feelings in the chat post game for all those who watched. Now, but hey, focus is shift. It's Kansas City. How are you feeling heading into facing Mahomes? A guy who we made look quite pedestrian when we faced him the first time. And, a guy like Travis Kelce who he couldn't shake it off when it came to our defense because they shut him down. And Fangio ain't a Swiftie, let it be known. How are you feeling heading into this game and coming off the last one?
Well, coming off the last one, I mean, my Dolphins' heart was shattered. I really think that was the worst loss, the worst I've ever taken a loss in my 36 years of fandom. And the frustrating part for me, we'll digest it all, but that punt return to me just shows you everything that's wrong with this franchise. Keeping coaches that have no business being on your staff when you did a complete overhaul, there's better options available. You improved your offensive line coach. You improved almost every coach on this roster. You let the one coach that could sink you, Jake Bailey, gets no hang time on his punt. That punt return, and I hate to say it, but man, once that happened, I was like, here we go again. And I think that's what hurts me the most, man, is that rewind. We were 9-3, fighting for the number 1 seed, 3-game lead in the division on the Buffalo Bills. The AFC East seemed like a certainty,
Titans
right?
game, bro. It's a Titans game.
Yeah, you're 2-4 down the stretch. Every measuring stick game you had besides Dallas over the course of the year, you didn't show up. Sure, there's injuries, and I don't want to downplay them, but I don't think we're losing these games just based off the injuries we have. I think our star players are folding under the bright lights, and that's not just Tua. That's Tyreek. That's a lot of people, man. And players that I was critical of, like Christian Wilkins, are doing the opposite. They've started to play better under the bright lights. Zach Sieler all year, that guy has been amazing,
Well,
right?
Christian Wilkins was a ghost against the Ravens, in all fairness.
Yeah, the defense did everything they could have to win that game. We should have won that
Both
game.
games.
Yeah,
Both games.
but the defense against Buffalo was just
Not the
incredible.
Ravens game. I'm joking about the Ravens.
I know what you're saying. I thought you were talking about Tennessee, but they
Tennessee.
crapped
No,
up.
yeah.
They
Tennessee for sure.
But-
Yeah.
But like, yeah, man, like I mean, that's the frustrating part is the defense does it, the special teams and offense fails. But it's always one of the three that's failing. There's no consistency. Sometimes the offense looks elite, then the defense fails. Then the defense looks elite, offense fails. If they both look good, special teams fails you. So it's like it's almost like how do you fix this? It was frustrating to see the Bills win their division at our house after the season we had that we thought was going to be special. We've talked about all year, and watching us just creep into the playoffs, it's as disappointing as I've ever been being a Dolphins fan. With that said, you got a playoff game that you can win right in front of you.
Okay, can I ask you something though? You just said about the injuries, it's more of the injuries, and I agree. You know, we've had flawed situational play calling. I said it. The three-headed monster, McDaniel, Tyreek, and Tua. We've had games where all three of them haven't shown up. Tua, to me, you know, because I count the Chargers game. People want to use hindsight, but we all know how people are hyping up the Chargers and Herbert heading into that. You were here for the post game. There's over 1,200 people in the chat. Tua this year was 2-5 in big games to me. All right, he won the Chargers game and the Dallas game. He lost to the Bills twice, right? Lost to Philly, lost to KC, lost to the Ravens. 2-5 in big games is how I view him. 30% just ain't cutting it. So I agree. I agree with all that. But you know, back to the injuries for a second. I gotta ask you this though. You know, you look at last week's injury report. We had 19 players on it. The Bills had 6. You look at our offensive line snaps. 47% of our offensive line snaps have been taken by backups. The second closest team is about 27%. No playoff team has over 16%. And, you know, the Bills had 4%. Just for the Bills had 6 people on their injury report, but they're all healthy last week. We had 19. Do you think with all these injuries, though, we would have at least a win or two more?
You know, I would think and try to lean to yes, but what's the injuries thing that frustrates me, I think, is in the first half of the season when we were battling those injuries, I think you and I both banked on this team getting healthier, right, as the season went on, and we've actually went the opposite.
The opposite, yeah. The KC game. Remember when we were heading into the KC game, we started getting bodies back, and we're like, oh my God, we're about to get healthy, right? You know?
Yeah, and where we stand right now as a football team reminds me of the Ravens 2 years ago when they had 22 players on the IR, 11
Travis
starters.
said this too, right?
And he did say it. It was a great point by him. But I live in this town. I was here when it happened. All season, the Ravens looked like a juggernaut. Lamar went down. People were questioning whether he was really hurt or he was doing it for the contract. Tyler Huntley almost beat the Cincinnati Bengals. It reminded me a lot of what the Dolphins did last year, too, with Skylar Thompson. But, you know, it just fell short. They had the 97-yard fumble return, Sam Hubbard, for a touchdown. But then the Ravens got healthy this year, and they're a juggernaut, right? So I'm hoping it's like that for the Dolphins. But I will say the reason I don't know what it looks like next year for the Dolphins because they're going to have to make a lot of tough decisions, man. The cap changed. It wasn't as high as they thought it was going to be. The Dolphins are $41 million rounding up over the cap. They're going to have to make some tough decisions. So it's going to be interesting. But, yeah, you know, they probably squeeze out a win or two if they're healthy. But I also think they squeeze out a couple wins if Tyreek and Tua play better on the big stage and Mike McDaniel calls better games. Like, I will say this. This game for me, we said last week was a legacy game for Tua. I said that, and I think it was, and we failed. So I think that makes even this game another legacy game, and here's why. If you lose this football game, the whole talk of this offseason is going to be what reason? Is Tua a franchise quarterback? Do we pay him? Is he going to get the contract? And then the next season, I think Mike McDaniel, Tua, and Tyreek to an extent.
We're on the hot seat if we underachieve next season.
Right. If we go through the same thing next week, I bet you McDaniel's out, which means that Tua could probably be out. And then a new GM might say, hey, Tyreek, we're not paying you $50 million a year. We're going to trade you, get draft picks, and rebuild this. And that's, I think, what we all don't want to happen, right? But you win this, and you win against the best player in football in his house, in freezing cold conditions, which answers a lot of questions. You can win in the elements, you can win on the road, and
well, we should have won in the elements last year. If Sherfield, who's making Madden glitch catches, could make a simple catch in December last year, we beat the Bills. And Tua
Right.
was very good in that game against the Bills.
Right. No, and I agree, but I think this is a game where you can fix the legacy. You can
Okay,
get the
so let
whole
me ask you
franchise
this.
back on
Let me
track.
ask you this, because I've asked everyone else this. So let me ask you this. Does this, if they win this weekend, does it absolve you of them? Does it absolve them of the last 2 weeks in your eyes? Or if it doesn't, does it at least take the sour taste out of your mouth over the last 2 weeks of what you went through because of who they're beating, what you've pointed out, defending
What you just said.
champions,
What you
etc.?
just said is what it does for me. It takes the sour taste of it. Because look, I picked this team to go to the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And if they
But
don't
the
do that,
injuries have made us realize we're an AFC championship contender more than we are a Super Bowl contender
Well,
with these injuries.
and I also think we have a Super Bowl roster, but we have a head coach that's not there yet. I think that personally. I think he's a year off of being.
Well, that's
that
what
guy.
I was going to point out when you're making about the Ravens thing. The only difference I'd say about the Ravens and us is they have a coach that's there. We don't.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah, I think Mike McDaniel's going to continue to be a better coach year after year. I think our roster building was built to win now, and there was just a little bit of synergy off of between when the coach was going to be ready and that. But long story short, it will get the nasty taste in my mouth. Now, I'll say the opposite too, though. If we lose this football game, Reason, for me, this is the most disappointing season of all 36 that I've ever been a fan of this team. Because again, fighting for that number 1 seed to do exactly what we did with Skylar Thompson at the end of last year, to me, would be a complete mess. And I'm already excited about next year. I looked at that schedule. That's a cake schedule. I think
We'll talk about it. Yeah.
I think they'll be a good team. But you can't think that, I feel like, so I said this earlier today. I feel like that I personally changed my standard to move the goalposts to be a fan of this football team, meaning, I come in and say the Dolphins are going to win the Super Bowl. Now I'm saying, you know what? I'll be happy if they win one playoff game to get this 23-year stench out of our, mouth. And it's, I just, like, for me.
Plus, it would be who you beat for that one game would mean. Like,
Yeah,
it's not like you're beating anybody. You're beating the defending Super Bowl champions in their house, which is Arrowhead. I know it's, they lost 4 at home this year, I believe. But since 2001, it's been one of the hardest places to win at in the NFL.
Well, I will tell you, I can speak from experience how cold it was. In 2008, I went to that game when Chad Pennington beat the Chiefs. I was in my hotel room 3 hours later, and it was not, I don't even know how cold it was then. I think it was like 15 degrees. Dude, I could feel my toes for about 3 hours after the game. I was, with double layer socks and stuff like that. So it's going to be cold, and we know the elements. I think we worry about it and think about it more than the players. I actually think the elements help us, to be honest, a little bit, because it will. Pat Mahomes has not had a Pat Mahomes passing.
It might make
season.
both teams one-dimensional. We'll talk about the running.
Right.
If they have to run the football, that plays right into our hands a little bit, I think.
But I think you bring up a good point. Beating the Chiefs at their house is kind of like beating the Jags, then beating the Texans.
If you beat them in their house right now, that would like be knocking out the Michael Jordan Bulls or the Magic Johnson Lakers coming a year off a championship.
Yeah, I mean, look, the best case scenario for me, and it sucks TJ Watt's out, because I think the Steelers can beat the Buffalo Bills. I'm just going to say that. I think they could beat them. And if they beat them, that means that Steelers will be playing the Ravens, and we play the winner of the Browns or the Texans. And honestly, man, I think we could beat both those teams.
Oh, send us to Houston into that weather, baby. Let's go.
And, dude, the Steelers swept the Ravens. And I know last week, but the Ravens did have a good amount of stars. They didn't have Lamar.
Well, you know what we want? We don't want that game moved off of that because of that Lake Erie, because we want that to turn into a run game. If that turns into a physical run game, I'm taking the Steelers because they've been doing it for like 60 years. The Bills are trying to do it for the first time since OJ wore their jersey.
Well, I'm saying if the Steelers beat the Bills, then they'd play the Ravens, and they swept them this year. And I think, and I'm not saying that they, look, the Ravens in the last week of the season weren't playing for anything, but they had starters there. And the Ravens
are they going to be cold? They've been off for a couple weeks by the time that game comes around too.
And that's a lot of stuff to chew on. But there is a scenario where the Dolphins can still host the AFC Championship. That's what I'm trying to illustrate here. That's hope.
It would have to be Steelers and my. I don't know about the Steelers, because I'm gonna tell you this much. I like our matchup against Houston. I do not like our matchup against Cleveland. And obviously, after what we saw, I don't know if we could go to Baltimore.
Yeah, no, Baltimore Buffalo and Kansas City are the only 3 teams that really scare me. I'll be honest. I think we could beat the Browns pretty handily.
And I
with
think
Flacco.
Buffalo and Baltimore, if things work out right, like what you said, the Steelers could play some ups. They're the type of team that could catch guys by surprise, right?
Yeah, and there's no way we could play the Bills in the next round, is there?
I have no idea.
I
But
don't
we
think
got to
there
get
is.
past the first round.
Yeah,
bro.
I don't think there's.
Jesus.
Yeah, and that's where this is a huge game. I mean, it's right in front of us, man. And every time we've talked about this year, pretty much the Dolphins have failed. I need to see them cash in. It will make me think going into the offseason, feeling really good about where we're heading and where we could go the next year. Losing this game, man, and I think there's more questions than answers about this team heading into year 3 of McDaniel.
Well, okay, let's get into something before we get into the into Bay Taylor. Something I've been saying, like the past couple weeks is we got to feed Achane. We got to feed Achane. I said before the game, should have had 20 carries between targets in the pass game and carries in the run game. Only ended up with 10 touches, and obviously we all saw how explosive he was. You look at this game, and I mean, it's obviously going to be bad weather. There's no doubt about that. And my thing too is, it's no joke, the weather. We're talking like what we can talk in this segment about whether they should move the game or not. I mean, that's a conversation in its own self. But listen, the wind chill in Kansas City Saturday night, the National Weather Service, Neal, said it's going to be quote unquote dangerously cold.
Yeah,
okay.
no.
The National Weather Service said that. All right. And it's minus 30 degrees is what it's looking for with a wind chill. And NFL sources are basically telling reporters still there will be no schedule change for the Dolphins and Chiefs, but they're talking about moving the Steelers and Bills game because of the Erie effect. Anyways, my whole point is this. Well, potentially one of the coldest games in NFL history.
Ever.
Will this finally force McDaniel's hand to feed Mostert and Achane and just say 35 carries, boys, 35 carries, 20 passes. We're rolling with it. Are we finally gonna see the run game coordinator? Is this gonna force the hand?
Yeah, and dude, that's how they win this game. De'Von Achane has been the best player on offense since he returned from injury on this football team.
I agree. He's looked the most explosive, and yes, I even include Tyreek.
Yeah, he looks like Chris Johnson out there. That touchdown run that he did where he shook Jordan Poyer last week, to me, man, was one of the beautiful runs I've seen this in a long time here. And I hope I pray that Raheem Mostert coming back does not mean Achane touches the ball less, because
I think it means Wilson is out of the.
Raheem Mostert is the Robin and De'Von Achane is the Batman on this football team. That has been proven to me. I don't care about the 21 touchdowns. I'll mock that all year long. Achane probably would have had them too in the same scenarios. So I think it is, though, Achane, Mostert, and even Jeff Wilson. I think you could see all 3 of them getting carries, but I also think that if Waddle's healthy and Tyreek's out there, finding ways to get creative and getting them the balls. Is there a reason where you can get Tyreek Hill lined up in the backfield, get him the ball in some space?
Well, we've seen them use it, right? They use him in that wing back look. They use him in the backfield too. They used him last game in the backfield.
Because what I know, right, is this. When you look at the Chiefs offense, and Isaiah Pacheco is a good runner. He runs the ball hard.
He ain't what we got, though.
But he'd be the 3 on our team at best. I'm just being
true.
honest.
Clyde Edwards-Helaire wouldn't even make it.
He'd be practice squad. They do have Travis Kelce, and Kelsey's a smooth operator. And
you got to look out for Jerick McKinnon out of the backfield too, catching footballs. Yeah.
But you got Ramsey. I'm just doing this, even though they probably won't trail. But you got Ramsey who can easily lock down Rashee Rice. You got Spalding, who's Scantlin.
He's the one I'm most worried about, eh?
But he struggled all season.
Rashee Rice is the only one making plays for them. He's the only one making plays for them right now.
Yeah. Their passing game has been abysmal this year. So, I think our secondary, even down X, can hold up. And I'm
I said this on the show yesterday. Don't you think we match up better personnel wise against them than we would have against Buffalo this week?
Yeah, and McKinnon's on the IR based off the chat, not even eligible for the game. which would be good. Javon Holland's not going to play in this game, man. He's not going to play. I heard some things and I've seen some things, and I just don't think he's going to play. I think it's going to be Brandon Jones and Deshaun Elliott out there. And in this game, honestly, I'm not too upset about it. I think our run defense can play really well. Sieler, Wilkins, that defensive front. I actually think the elements help us mitigate the fact that we lost Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips, and now we have Justin Houston and Melvin Ingram out there, because I don't think the Chiefs are going to try to plan to pass as much. They could shock us and try. I don't see how in this kind of weather you can drop back and pass the ball 30 times. I just don't. It's going to be freezing cold, and I know the Chiefs are well versed compared to us in playing in those temperatures, but they are not well versed in playing in this extreme of a temperature.
No one is.
This is. I mean, somebody asked me this the other day. I think the coldest game I've ever played in my life was like 35 degrees, and we all had long sleeve, dry Under Armour stuff on, gloves. You know what I mean? We were freezing our asses off. This is, heaters, jackets. You bring double the staff that you usually, because everybody who comes off that field, you know what I mean? And I get some of these guys try to be warriors and go no sleeves. They can do whatever they want. I don't care as long as they win this football game. I don't care if they win this game 3-0. Win me the football game. It doesn't have to be pretty. It's going to be ugly. It's horrible weather. It's the playoffs. Win ugly. But keep this season alive, because Dolphins fans, Dolphins players, anyone who follows this team and gives a crap about the Miami Dolphins deserve this season to end in some kind of high note. If the last time we win is Dallas, man, that is a hard pill to swallow, and you're going to be asking yourself for months what could have been, right? I just think go win this game. Nothing else that has happened to this point matters now, right? It's all over with. It's in the past. You come out here, you set the tone. Mike McDaniel's creative, amazing schemer. Find the scheme. Find the scheme that's going to beat this Chiefs team in their house. The way to do it is running this football, running the ball effectively. Chris Jones is one of the best interior defensive linemen in football. Probably don't want to run it right to the A-B gaps all day long. You want to put them on the perimeter, and you want to put some motion, and you want to put some sophistication to it as well, where these telegraph pitches, I'm tired of those, man. Stop running those damn plays so much. Find out and create some diversity in your running game. But De'Von Achane is the answer on how we're going to win this game.
And you see what I brought up here? De'Von Achane recorded plus 279 rushing yards over expected, second most in the NFL, despite only 103 carries, and second behind Christian McCaffrey. Also averaged a league high 4.4 yards after contact per carry on a minimum of 75 carries. The only running back under 200 pounds to rank within the top 10 of yards after contact per carry. Obviously, totaled 103 carries for 800 yards this season, averaging 7.8 yards per carry. It is the best rushing average of any running back in the NFL history, with a minimum of 100 carries in a season. Mercury Morris is second in NFL history, averaging 6.4 yards per carry in 1973.
How many games did he miss, Reason, this year, Achane in total? 5?
Yeah, it's either 5 or 6.
I mean, dude, we're talking what he did this year.
I'll tell you right now.
I mean, I saw CBS put him on their all-rookie team over Bijan Robinson and Jahmyr Gibbs. I mean, this guy is a superstar right now. Right now, he is a superstar. To put up that kind of production, missing 6 games, and honestly, Reason, he was never the man here really either. It was always the Raheem Mostert show with him being the supporting actor. What he has done this year is absolutely staggering, and it gets you excited about what this team could be once they do. Because you agree with me that next year he's the guy going into the season?
Yeah.
So I think that is just another element of this football team, and it's a home run draft pick by Chris Greer. Home run, A+.
So yeah, he missed 4 games. He played in 13.
14. Okay, so he missed 4, but he also was very.
But he didn't get any carries, right? Like the LA game, he got no touches. He only got 1 touch against New England, right? He only got 1 touch against New England. Only got 1 touch against Las Vegas, and he was active against New York, but he didn't get the ball, right? Like they didn't use him. He was active.
Yeah, I
So
remember that.
technically he was out for like 5 games because he was active for 1. And then they really didn't use him in 3 other games he's been active. So really, if you look at his, if you look at, okay, put it this way, games where he's had 2 attempts or more, right, where he's been given the ball 2 times or more, that's only happened in 9 games this season.
Wow. Just wow.
So there's 8 games where he really didn't get fed.
His numbers show that if he played a whole healthy season, he'd be a Rookie of the Year contender.
Yeah, he'd be in the conversation. Stroud would have won
it. Stroud would win it. Quarterback. And the NFL's quarterback awards. Next year, a quarterback might win Defensive Player of the Year the way the NFL.
Oh hell, this guy would have played the whole season. He might be in the conversation for Offensive Player of the Year. Never mind just Rookie of the Year.
Right. He is a player to be excited about. That is no doubt. He's also the best player in Madden too.
Well, all I know is, bro, cha-ching. I was right about that one. That's all I know.
What is a tomato can, by the way? Someone said Tua is a tomato can. What is that?
I don't know, but there's a bench for you. All right. Now, keeping up for a second here. Tua Tagovailoa, his extension. I know you were pretty heated about it in the chat when everything was going down. So let's play this so you can kind of hear the audio of Bay Taylor and what she had to say in regards. Hey, listen, all I know is my girl Joy defended my guy. That's all I know. All right, let me bring it up here. Give me a second. Well, but before we get into it, I want to hear, actually, before we get into it, let me get your thoughts on the extension, because let you set the stage, because we haven't had a chance to hear your thoughts on the extension.
I don't envy the position Chris Greer's in, and here's why. For 20 whatever years, we were in quarterback purgatory, where we found every which way to screw up finding it. Passing on Drew Brees, going Culpepper twice, passing on Brees twice, through the Gus Farras, the Joey Harringtons, the Cleo Lemons. We all know the story, how bad it was. We got a guy right now who is, at worst, a top 7 to 10 quarterback in this league. There's no doubt that's at worst. I could put Tua. The big conundrum for me is do you pay that guy who hasn't had the kind of the groundbreaking signature win? I would say that, the signature win that will set the stamp and say, there's no question. People are saying the thing you can't do is say 25 to 30 million. The price is the price. You either pay it or you don't. You might get some wiggle room, but you got to pay it or you don't. I mean, look, the reality is when you look at the options that are out there, whether they're for trade, free agency, or the draft, there's not an upgrade available.
And there's no guarantee of that production or that 65% winning percentage. Look at this, 25 to 30 million a year for Tua. Guys, Daniel Jones got over 40 million a year. This guy just led the league in passing in multiple major statistical categories. See, what's funny here is it's the same thing with Kelly says Tua getting paid like Herbert, which is what I've said. Listen.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Justin Herbert is a known league-wide choker. Has never sniffed the MVP conversation the last 2 years like Tua has. All right. He got paid over 215 million guaranteed. It's funny. All these people who the Tua haters, whatever, how they all wanted Justin Herbert. Notice how that conversation's over. There's no conversation here.
Yeah.
You don't hear anything about that. Now it went from we didn't pick the right guy who went the next pick to, our guy needs to win more. That's what they've changed it to. Why? Because all these people who said Josh Rosen's a franchise quarterback or said, Tannehill was the guy, they were the same ones saying, Herbert, we missed out. Now it's Herbert's a known bigger choker than Tua Tagovailoa. That's a fact. And you talk about a guy with shallow stats. He's had an offensive line rebuilt for him. He's had Keenan Allen, Mike Williams. They drafted Quentin Johnson. He had Austin Eckler, and better than all this. You know how those same people who wanted Herbert blamed Tua for Flores, Neil, and Tua got a coach fired? Herbert's gotten 2 coaches fired. an
Right.
offensive coach and a defensive coach. Both sides of the spectrum, baby. And now if Harbaugh comes in there, you don't win in 2 years, what do you think's going to happen? One of them's going to be gone. That's what's going to happen right there. But anyways, I digress. The extension, you know, it's like, listen, I've been trying to tell people it's happening. And it goes back to what you talked about earlier, 41 million over the cap. This saves you 15 million.
Right, and that's what I'm going to say. The reason it happens is, first of all, the cap space. It saves you 15 million plus. You know, it allows you to keep Christian Wilkins more than likely if you make a deal with Tua. And you know, before the season, I didn't want to pay Wilkins $24 million. At this point,
or you can keep Connor Williams. It allows you flexibility, right?
At this point, though, I just don't see how Christian Wilkins is back on this team. He's
going to be at least tagged. He's going to be at least franchise tagged. I think that's the plan.
Him and Zach Sieler together, man, are freaking Cheech and Chong. They're awesome, man. I love them, dude.
He's going to be at minimum franchise tag because they're going to have to supplement the edge loss.
But another angle that I don't really hear about why I think Tua gets paid is because if I'm his agent after the season where he's the AFC starting Pro Bowler, he's top of the NFL in a lot of these categories, do I say, you know what?
Well, did you see the report from Cam Wolfe?
No, I did not.
Apparently, Cam Wolfe was on Big O and said that Tua's camp expects him to be paid this offseason.
Yeah, I mean, why wouldn't you? Because here's the thing: is if you go out there and Tua, say let's say Tua plays back next year under the 5th-year option, and even has the season he had this year, yet they don't win a playoff game or something, then who knows, man? Or maybe he gets.
Well, I think they're gonna have an out after year 3, probably 5-year deal out after year 3 or something like that. You know.
But Tua's agent would be a fool to let him play on the 5th-year option. So
they're not going to. He's going to get paid.
It's going to create a win-win. But it's funny, man. I did something interesting this week.
He's the first guy that. Sorry to cut you off, Neil. He's the first guy that's going to get paid, so they know how to move on Wilkins and these other guys. But anyways, continue.
No,
sorry.
My top 10 friends, I live here in Baltimore, are all Ravens fans, and I posed a question to them one by one, and I said, hey, you know, Lamar's been special. You know, he's an MVP, probably going 2 times. If you could pick a quarterback to start your playoff game this week, would you rather have prime Joe Flacco or prime Lamar Jackson? 7 out of 10 said Joe Flacco.
Yeah, because we know what he was in the playoffs. He's a stud.
That's what it should. That's how important, like the statistics, the MVPs, all that stuff. That's fun. It's fun to talk about.
The statistics matter in the playoffs because you know why your friends are saying that? That Super Bowl run with Flacco, he broke Eli Manning's touchdown to interception ratio. Wasn't Eli like 10-1?
And
then
Montana.
Flacco went like, what was it? Like 14-1 or 13-1 or something like that or he didn't throw an interception. He didn't throw an interception through the AFC, I think.
Right.
Like he was phenomenal, bro.
Well, and I said all the positives about Tua. I do want to say, because in my 3 Red Bull and vodkas, half a bottle of barrel proof whiskey soliloquy that I was throwing in your chat, like I've been a big Tua supporter from the jump. I predicted them to win the Super Bowl. I never really care about the MVP. I thought he was a candidate. I could tell over a month ago that he wasn't going to win the MVP. But on Sunday night, for the first time of my fandom of Tua, I questioned whether he could win us a Super Bowl. And I'm just being honest. It was the first time that I ever sat there and been like, maybe this guy can't win us the Super Bowl. Maybe he's the guy who's going to let us fight for divisions, get us into the playoffs, but he can't. And, you know, I don't know if that's fair. It's just.
Well, bro, Jordan Love's the only one from that draft class this year who's won a big game. Jalen Hurts is being questioned in Philly already after the extension. Joe Burrow looks like the most injury-prone one of the class. Justin Herbert's a known choker. And then Tua is 2-5 in big games this year. Jordan Love's the only guy who's actually, if you think about it this year, if we have a real conversation, Jordan Love's the only one out of all those big names this year that's had a good year by the end of it. When it was all said and done, the team rose above expectations. And hey, everyone remembers, and I know you remember, Neil, back then I said you either draft Tua or you trade back and you get Jordan Love.
Oh yeah, I think.
But I didn't think we could develop. I don't think. No, bro, dude, The flack I used to take for saying Jordan Love because people couldn't evaluate him because they looked at his last year at Utah State. They looked at the 20 touchdowns to the 19 interceptions, I believe it was, or whatever. And, people just box score watched on him. So that's how they evaluated him. Oh, buddy, I used to get called nuts and crazy. The reason why I said why Jordan Love wouldn't work in Miami, though, is I didn't believe Flores and company would develop him. And I still don't believe. I think they would have rushed him out there and probably ruined him. Anyways,
I had him as my 7th overall prospect in that draft.
Yeah, I had him as he's my dude. I had Burrow, Tua, Herbert, then Love, and Herbert and Love were like neck and neck basically for me.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. It's going to be interesting to see what happens. I don't see how the deal doesn't get done.
Let's show Joy talking about it. Go ahead.
Yeah, this win would help so much.
Yeah. Let's listen to Joy because we're going to talk about this more. So let's let Joy Taylor came and this is what she said. Now I'm playing the audio attached to a clip from the video because of monetization purposes, but
because it's been a long time since the Dolphins have had a franchise quarterback. A long time. I think Tua is a very high-level talent. He was in the MVP conversation this year. He needs to play a specific way, but you can say that about a lot of guys. Yes, you can. When you look at the business of it from a fan perspective, from a media perspective, from a business perspective, it just makes sense to lock in your quarterback because once you know what you're paying your quarterback also and how you're spreading that contract out, you know who else you can pay. This is all timing with the salary cap. Who you have to draft at a certain time to replace this position. When you get people healthy, are they going to re-sign them? It just clears everything up. I think Tua is a franchise quarterback. And the franchise quarterbacks are expensive. They cost what they cost, and the next guy passes the next guy. So $260 million sounds like it's a ton of money, okay? It's a ton of money, yes, okay? And somebody's got to make it, and everyone wants to pay their franchise quarterback. I think you pay him earlier because it just makes things simpler on the back ends, and I just don't think they're ever.
So what are your thoughts on that? I mean, because she's obviously talking about the business aspect of it too, right? It's going to allow you. And by the way, someone in the chat was like, Flo would have developed Love. Guy, who in the building would have developed? Flores couldn't develop quarterbacks. Godsey couldn't. Gailey couldn't. Studesville. We had no one in the building to develop Love. So no, Love wouldn't have been developed here. You had no mind to develop him. Anyways. She kind of talks about the back end, and that's what we're talking about, right? Not only are we going to save $15 million against the cap, Neil, what did Mahomes and the Chiefs do as soon as his 5th year was up and the new contract kicked in? What happened, right? They restructured him right away because you know he's going to be here for at least a 3-year window, so you push the money. What are your thoughts on what Joy said? Because remember, Joy was someone who a couple years ago wasn't even a big fan
at all. No, I look, and we know who her brother is, and we know that he knows better than anybody probably of any of us how bad the Dolphins quarterback situation is. I'm sure they have conversations about it. So I think there's probably, maybe I'm reading two lines too much here, but I'm thinking that for me, there's a sense of a Jason Taylor approval there as well. I'm catching that. Why it makes so much sense is not only by doing so, it allows you to keep your window open, not only for 2024, but I think for 2025.
Yeah, exactly.
It adds another year to your window. And if I'm the Miami Dolphins and I'm going to sign Tua Tagovailoa, which I think we're 99.9% sure that's going to be the plan.
It's happening. It's going to be the first domino to fall.
Well, you know what I'm doing? I'm doing it the day after we either lose in the playoffs or win the Super Bowl. And the reason I'm doing that is because I want to set the tone. I am not going to let the offseason fodder and the naysayers have a voice. I'm going to cut that snake off by its head, and I'm going to give that deal right there and make it known that he's our guy.
And let's jump on the cap and see cap for life. I mean, this is a cap for real. Listen, you're missing the whole point. If you 5th-year option him and then franchise tag him, franchise tag is all guaranteed. You cannot restructure that.
Yeah.
This year, if you 5th-year option him, you cannot move money around. You have to sign him this year. You save $15 million, and then you can restructure him and save another $20 to $30 million the next year.
Right.
You cannot keep this roster if you were going to let him play on his 50-year option and then franchise tag him. It doesn't work like that. You can't move money around. Whereas if you extend him this year, that's the whole point. That's the better business move. You can move money around. Christian Wilkins and Connor Williams and those guys are gone if we go that route where you got to do the 5th year, play it out, and then the franchise tag. You just don't have the money.
And probably Tyreek Hill's gone if you do it that route too, because you can't. So like we have.
He jumps to 40, doesn't he? One of these
50,
years coming up?
50 coming up. Not next year, the year after. He jumps to $50.8 million.
Yeah.
So like the negotiate. So like for your example, like with Christian Wilkins, I don't think they're going to tag him, because if they re-sign him and pay big bonus money and they keep his cap number low, what I think that means is they don't have to restructure as many people. I think Bradley Chubb and Jalen Ramsey are the two Dolphins getting restructured. And not to make this a cap show, I think X is going to be a post-June cut so that we can sign our draft class and have
Baker's going to have to restructure or he's gone.
I think Breaker, Ogba's gone. And then I think the Jeff Wilson's the world, Keon Cross, maybe even a Mike White. Like I think that they could all be gone. And we'll talk that when we have to talk that. But for the purposes of the cap, why this is an important extension is because if you franchise tag Tua after his 5th-year option, it's a $50 million cap hit that offers you no flexibility. The thing about the salary cap that when people say it's not real, it's because there's flexibility around it, restructures, bonuses, kind of robbing Peter to pay Paul, for lack of a better term. If you put yourself on a franchise tag scenario, that big $50 million that's eating over 20% of your salary cap is all accounted for and can't be maneuvered. So I think it's I do think there's a lot of fodder around like how to negotiate the salary cap, but like a lot of people don't really understand how it works. There's great resources like Over the Cap and Spot Rack where you can go see these things, and they're not perfect either, but like you have to I just hate when people say things like that, because you can't do that. Like the Dolphins window was built for 2023 and 2024. Being smart with contracts gets it open to 2025.
Maybe 2026, maybe.
We have Waddle, Phillips, and Holland. I think we lose one of those 3 guys when it comes up to it, man. I don't know how you're going to keep all 3. If you do, that means
we're going to have to move off Tyreek. I always thought you talk about that $50 million cap hit he jumps to. I always took that, Neal, as that's the year where they move off because doesn't it coincide with it's either the year before or
I'm looking right now.
It's either the year before. It's either the 5th year or it coincides with Waddle's money. I think.
Yeah, his hit next year's 34. In 20, I was wrong. In 2026, it's 56.3 million. But look, if I'm just saying this, and I don't want him to do this.
When's Waddle with his 5th year because he's a first round?
Waddle's in his
2026.
Yep. Well, look at this though. Tyreek, if you release him after 2026, right? So we're talking 3 seasons from now, would save you $45 million in cap space. But you could also
Waddle money.
If you restructure him, there's $0 in savings. So you're either paying Tyreek million 56, or he can say, you know what, I'll sign on for a couple years, and then I signed a 2-year extension, and that would save 35. So the Dolphins have all this flexibility, but like you're really gearing up for 2 more or at most 3 more big years of your window hitting. But Javon Holland is a second round.
He has no option.
So you have to get ready to tag him or sign him. And I hope that's what we're going to talk a lot about that coming up. So, but the deal has to get done because it only makes sense. And again, who are you bringing in here who's better than Tua? Not Russell Wilson, not better than Tua. I think you're not getting Caleb Williams in the draft. There's Bo Nix or J.J. McCarthy are not better than Tua Tagovailoa. There's just no options that are better options. Kirk Cousins is not better, especially coming off an Achilles. There's just not a better option. So, good thing is that Tua stayed healthy all this year. He improved a lot of people wrong with that. He got better.
And then the 1 year he stays healthy, look at all the categories he leads in, and look at all the things we're fighting for at the end of the season.
And I got called out about this in one of those Twitter spaces this week where I said that the way I look at Tua is that he's really kind of in his redshirt sophomore year, right? Because the first 2 years under Flores, he was not developed. He was kind of left on an island to die. Well, he got NFL reps, but man, it wasn't in an environment that was going to breed a lot of growth, right? So this is year 2 under Mike McDaniel. So I view Tua next season, starting the season, as a junior, and I think that's where he'll continue his growth, get a little bit better. And I'm not trying to make excuses for him,
And
but
look at it. Well, don't listen, as you keep talking, you're not gonna have to make excuses because I'll show everyone when you look at Tua, who's the 5th most efficient quarterback, who's vying for like 3 all year, top 3 all year, he ends up being about the 5th most efficient quarterback in the NFL, bro. He had a higher EPA per play than Lamar Jackson. Think about that.
Well, and that's so, like, for me, man, like, that's funny you see he's 5th, because where I look at the landscape of the quarterbacks in the NFL, I think that Pat Mahomes, Josh Allen, and Joe Burrow are the best 3 quarterbacks, and they're that elite group. I think the word elite is so overused. I think they're the only 3. I think Lamar Jackson could be the 4th best quarterback in the regular season in the league, but if he goes out in the playoffs and lays another dud, then there's got to be serious conversations about Lamar Jackson, just like there is about Tua Tagovailoa in these big games.
Well, there were serious conversations around his extension. People don't see this fan base is so tunnel vision to Miami. You're out there in Maryland. We were telling everyone, hey, we were out ahead of the rumors starting about Lamar to Tua. Remember, we warned people when the Deshaun Watson stuff was just ending that watch. This is what's coming up because this is what we're hearing or whatever, right? But anyways, I digress. Was there not a big section of the media out there in the fan base that didn't want to pay Lamar because they didn't like the playoff results? Am I right or am I wrong?
100% right. And you won't hear it, but there's concern here in Baltimore about it right now, Reason. Trust me, I live here. There is concern about it. A lot of people think the Ravens are a wagon, and they've been. But there are people that are worried about the Buffalo Bills. That's all I hear when I go out. There are people, the Ravens fans, that are worried about the Buffalo Bills. So I will say, like, those are the guys that I think those 4 guys are the guys I'd put above Tua. But Hurts had a bad year. Dak's had a good year, but I wouldn't take Dak over Tua. I wouldn't take Herbert over Tua. Like, Tua is a top 5 to 10 quarterback. It's all based off of someone's preference. You're not going to go find a better option right now. I would do it, Reason, so you can get your out after year 2. Personally, if I could figure a way to do it where I'm loading the guaranteed money up in year, it's going to be hard. Loading up the money, hopefully in year 2, 3. They'll get creative with it. I wouldn't just say that it's a no-brainer from the fact that it's a conundrum where you would say, oh, I might make this guy the highest paid player in NFL history, yet he's never won a playoff game.
I don't think he's gonna. I think, okay, like, isn't Herbert, if I'm serving me correct, they're both over 215. Burrow's at like 219, and isn't Herbert at like 217 in terms of guaranteed? I think he's gonna be in around 215-ish.
Yeah.
I think he's gonna come in right around them. He's not gonna get as much as Burrow, especially if he doesn't win this weekend because of the lack of playoff wins. But Herbert, again, got over 215 million. Known choke artist around the league. He's never sniffed the MVP conversation or the betting odds like Tua did. Because let's be honest, if Tua looked like the guy he did last December against Buffalo and Green Bay before the concussion in these last 2 games, and we won them, and we beat the Ravens and we beat the Bills, Tua would be probably right there in the MVP discussion right now. It would probably be him, not Lamar, that people would be talking about. Let's be real, because we'd be the 1 seed. But my whole point is, he got paid. Tua gonna get paid. It's happening. Prepare.
Yeah.
And in a year, Neal, where quarterback numbers were down league wide, pretty much, other than a few guys here and there, Tua's going to get paid, bro. Because he led in a lot of. That's just what's going to happen.
Yeah, no, that's what I anticipate. It's definitely going to happen. It just makes too much sense. And the one notion I think that we need to put to rest is that, like, because Tua's a nice guy and plays the guitar, he's going to take less money. Like, Tua's going to get what he deserves.
No, just look at his representation, bro.
Right,
he's first, bro.
He's with a cutthroat agent. He's a man that has pride in himself, and this is how he's going to pay his family. And nobody who's risked their health, their well-being as much as Tua Tagovailoa right now in football. Like, Tua is not going to give. I'm not going to say that he'll take a fair deal with the Dolphins and that won't happen. But like the notion that he's just going to be like, okay, I'll take Daniel Jones money. If Tua took Daniel Jones money, I'd be happy at first. But then when I thought about it deeper, I'd be like, what? Why would that guy do that? Does he not have any faith in himself? Like, I don't want a guy who's going to lay down and not, you know what I mean? Like, I want Tua to get his money, man. Like, there's a lot of money. The NFL is making money hands over fist. Cap's going to go up $40 million the next 3 years. Like, I want Tua to get what he deserves. And, like, to think you're going to get a discount on a franchise quarterback when there's 32 NFL franchises and maybe 10 franchise quarterbacks in all the league. Because you know what's funny? What's just different reason. One thing I'll just say and move on from the Tua stuff. The noise around Tua is so loud, but I don't ever see
Where's the reek noise, bro?
I don't know what that is. But I have never seen Colin Cowherd open his show questioning Trevor Lawrence. But Trevor Lawrence, in one of the worst divisions in football, folded worse than anyone in football this year. And he had even more hype than Tua coming out of college. But you never hear that noise around a Trevor Lawrence, which I just find interesting, man, because on that quarterback hierarchy,
you don't even hear the noise from our own median fan base around Tyreek when he dropped the tying touchdown against the Bills. You don't hear the noise where a drive before that he dropped a key third down that went right through his arms.
Yeah,
you don't hear the noise, and he's making 30. You just said in 2 years he's going to be making quarterback money, $56 million.
Right, and when we add context to Tua, I'm going to add some content on Tyreek. My cousin's a big Chiefs fan. Has told me that like that's what Tyreek also did in Kansas City. He's not Calvin Johnson. No one ever expected him. But I will say I don't think he should have been playing. But he's been gutting out his injury. And I will say that, man, if my house burnt down or caught on fire that week, it's a huge distraction. I'm not, and he's a professional and he's got more money.
But this isn't an isolated incident.
No, there's a trend there. And
what do you mean a trend? Ravens drop. Dallas got bailed out by Waddle, drop. Right? Philly drops a touchdown that could have changed the outcome. Buddy, Kansas City in Germany, you dropped the ball at the 30-yard line. We got no points. Then you fumbled the ball at the 31-yard line. We got no points, and you gave them 7. Bro, this guy cost us 13 to 21 points in terms of a swing against Kansas City alone in the first half. I mean, Buffalo last year, him and Sherfield both drop a football, right? I mean, all these big games, this guy, it's a pattern, bro. This is a real thing.
I think when we talk next week, we're gonna be having the Tyreek Hill appreciation show.
Well, because I remember I talked about it yesterday on the show, Neil. In April, he went out because he didn't know it'd be an international game, and he told everyone that he was going to be the worst enemy at Arrowhead. Well, listen, we know you were talking about that regular season game, but now you actually got a shot to go to Arrowhead and back up what you said.
Right. No, and I think that's and as important as De'Von Achane is, what I mentioned earlier, I think the cool thing about the elements with a guy like Tyreek is you can get the ball 2 yards off the line of scrimmage and he can take it 80. And I think he will be motivated for this game. I hope he's healthy. I know now he's dealing with the back and everything in the world, but man, we're going to need Tyreek here. And if we go beyond this game, he's the most. I think Tyreek's outside of Tua the most important player on this whole team. So I think this is a big game for Tua. This is a big game for Tyreek.
And the three-headed monster, and for McDaniel. Patrick says, I love Wilkins and want him back, but tough pill when Sieler puts up exact same numbers and more sacks for 10 to 14 million less a year.
Well, it's a funny thing that's what you read, man, because I agree that everyone who's taken victory laps being like, you're an idiot for not wanting to pay Christian Wilkins, have to forget that the reason they paid Zach Sieler is because that Wilkins wouldn't agree to the money. Zach Sieler actually has more sacks, a defensive touchdown, an interception, more forced fumbles, more fumble recoveries. Like, as good as Christian Wilkins has been this year, Zach Sieler has been better, actually. And Zach Sieler was a Pro Bowl snub and a half. He should have been a Pro Bowler. Zach Sieler is slowly but surely growing to be one of my 5 favorite football players in this league.
Let me show you this. Before we get into your thoughts on the KC game and how you see it playing out, you talked about it earlier. Well, the 2024 opponents were announced. At home, the Dolphins will face the 49ers, the Bills, the Jets, the Titans, the Raiders, the Patriots, the Jags, and the Cardinals on the road. They'll be going to Cleveland, Green Bay, Houston, to LA to play the Rams, Buffalo, Seattle, Indianapolis, New York, and the Patriots. Listen, I actually think this isn't that bad of a schedule at all, man.
At all. Way easier than this year.
I only see 2 tough games at home, and that's the Bills and the Niners. And I mean, if that defense is good and how it's been, I think Cleveland, I think Green Bay, I think we have a little bit of a tougher road schedule, but I still see, 5 or 6 wins on that road schedule at least.
Yeah, I think that this is a very favorable schedule for the Dolphins, especially compared to this year. You never know what these teams are going to look like, but I see a lot of young quarterbacks, a lot of opportunity for the Dolphins to right some wrongs. I love their schedule for next year. Love it, actually.
Yeah.
When I read it, I was kind of surprised, to be honest, and I'm like, let's rock and roll with it.
And let's get Monday night with San Fran, All right. How do you see this, Casey? I'm going to make my prediction tomorrow. I'm going to be doing my preview show tomorrow. I'm going to be live around 2:00 tomorrow. I got some stuff going on, but I'll be doing my preview show tomorrow around 2:00. I'll be live, guys. Just FYI. Over 450 of you in the room. Smash that like button. Subscribe if you're new. How do you see this game playing out? Because I told everyone I see this being a low-scoring game. Like I said, now this is my score prediction, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a 13-10 game. I just wouldn't shock me if it was like 16, 16-30. It just wouldn't shock me. How do you see this game playing out? And what's your prediction for this?
I have the Dolphins being down in the fourth quarter, 16-14, and
Jason Sanders, baby.
And I have Jason Sanders making
the Colonel
a 17-16 win. What I see happening is I think De'Von Achane is going to have a big game, a game where people are starting to talk about this guy as being one of the better running backs in football this soon. I think he is the X factor, even more so than Tyreek Hill or Jalen Waddle in this football game. I do think Tyreek's going to get a touchdown in this football game, and Tua's going to deliver him the ball. I think Tyreek's he's too good of a football player not to get what he wants, and I think he wants a touchdown here more than any place in the world. This is the team that said, you're not worth the money. We will move on. We'll win a Super Bowl with Sky Moore, Rashee Rice, Scantling. We'll pick people off of, the unemployment line and throw them out there, and we'll win a Super Bowl without you. And I think that going home is going to be big. I think the Chiefs are going to struggle to run the football against the Dolphins. I think the Dolphins defense is going to play a physical brand. I think this is a great spot to have Vic Fangio, a guy that's seen and been familiar with Patrick Mahomes. We lost that first game, but we forget that our offense gave up a touchdown. I just think that this Dolphins team, and I'll be honest, I think there's going to be something to this Miami Dolphins team that's just tired of being pissed on. They're tired of things not going their way. They're tired of all the injuries. They're tired of the talk that they hear about their quarterback, about their team, and I think this team's going to fight back this week, and I think it's going to be a physical game. With Mahomes, Tua, Tyreek, and Waddle, and all the players that we hear out on this football team, you expect, an X-factor game. The elements matter. This Dolphins team, I think, is coming out swinging. I think they're going to be the aggressor. I think they're going to get there. And look, Mahomes is going to frustrate us. He'll frustrate us. We'll have doubt. There'll be times where we think the Chiefs are going to win this football game, but I think this is the game where everything that we've believed in and fought on as a fan base gets validated. And I would say that for me, going on the road, beating the best player in this league, in his house, in these elements, would be one hell of a statement by the Miami Dolphins. This, to me, isn't going to Houston and beating C.J. Stroud, a rookie, who I have a lot of respect for. I'm not trying to downplay any of these teams' success. This isn't going to Cleveland and beating 38-year-old Joe Flacco. To me, this is beating to the old Ric Flair quote: "To be the man, you got to beat the man." This is beating the man in his house, in his hometown, and 8:20 Saturday night. I'll tell you this right now. I will be drinking whiskey. and I will be throwing down.
Get ready for the Dolphins After Dark post-game show with Neal in the chat.
Yeah, you want happy Neal Driscoll. I'm ready, man. I just think that we deserve this, man, as a fan base.
Yeah.
It's been a challenging season.
Well, you know what I almost put a bet down on, bro, because it was like plus 20,000 was Lions versus Dolphins. Because I'm like, both fan bases deserve that, eh?
Right. Well, I just think, dude, I really do think this, and I don't mean this. We had the Chiefs in Germany. We had them.
Yeah, we
and
beat
we
ourselves.
let them off the hook. We beat off ourselves.
Yeah,
beat ourselves. I said beat off ourselves. Oof, that's a rough
one.
But let's do this, man. Let's do this for all of us, right? Like, I love those guys. They make millions of dollars to be football players. Let's do this for all these jabronis like us that just stand here and live, breathe, and die this football team who've been waiting 23 years. I was at the last playoff win. I was there. Our last road playoff game was Dan Marino against Seattle. Like, let that sink in, man. 1999 was our last road playoff win.
Well, bro, we're 3-0 all time in the playoffs against Kansas City. We won't beat them in 71, 90, and 94. But check this out. The Dolphins this year are 1-5 against playoff teams. We average about 17.7 points per game.
Right.
They're 1-4.
I know.
Against playoff teams. They average only 18.8 points per game. So something's got to give. All right. So final thoughts and two things I want to get your thoughts on and final thoughts. You know, I harp on Tyreek or whatever. And obviously it's a thing, bro, because I don't know if you saw the reports today, but Tyreek was working the jugs machine after practice. I don't know if you saw that.
I saw that. Oh, yeah, I saw that.
And also, you made a point yesterday about, the punt return with the, against the Bills and stuff. Neal, why don't we ever get the breaks? Like, it happened 2 weeks in a row. You had the Ravens big punt return to open the second half. And then you had the the kick return to open the second half. And then you had the punt return for a touchdown against the Bills. We didn't even get those breaks a lot with Jakeem Grant around here. Like, when are the Dolphins ever going to get those type of breaks where the field tilts on those type of momentum plays for us?
Yeah, we have a bad special teams coach. His strategy is awful. Jason Sanders should line up every kickoff and kick the ball out of the end zone. It shouldn't even be a question. Don't ever let them return it. Our coverage unit is inconsistent as it gets. And when your special teams guys get thrusted into playing time and now you're getting other people in special team roles, there's no time to get continuity there. Like, people aren't hammering their lanes. It's bad football. Now, the punt return. We need to find a punter in this offseason. We'll cross that bridge in the offseason. Jake Bailey is awful. He has no hang time.
It's so bad.
To kick the ball right down the middle
brought in Matariza, bro. When he got cleared, you should have brought in Matariza.
But that's a very easy play. That is where he's a left-footed putter. You line that bad boy on the left end of the sideline, you kick it out around the 8-yard line, right? That's all you do. Instead of you kick it right down the heart of the defense. And look, there's a lot of blame to go around in that game. That changed everything. That punt return changed everything. This special teams, it's one of the worst special teams units in football. They have to be mentally smart to overcome that. Meaning, Mike McDaniel's got to say, Danny, kick the ball through the end zone, touchbacks, punt the ball out of bounds if you have to. We cannot have our team riddled with injuries, busting our ass out there to go win the division, and you're the one who collapsed on us, right? Like, that to me was just crazy. But I will say that, like, it's frustrating. It's tough being a Dolphins fan. It's probably as tough as any team in sports. But you know what, man? The journey is fun. And
is it though? It's so up and down.
I just tell myself eventually, man, it's got to get broken, right? I have to have faith that eventually it's going to get broken. And for me, winning this game in the last 20 years will be the high of all of that. The highest of the high for me in 20 years. So at least since Marino retired, and it didn't even end on a good note. We lost 62.
Yeah, the lowest of the lows.
Right, but I loved it so much. To see him get that Seattle win to me was pretty amazing. I was buying hype that Marino was going to go out with a ring. I was drinking all the Kool-Aid, but no, man, I want this one so bad for us. And
we drank the Kool-Aid with Fiedler because of how good the team was. Of course, we drank the Kool-Aid with Marino.
I did have a Fiedler jersey. I'll be honest, it's in my closet. But final thoughts, 17-16, Miami wins. We're here next week, happier than a pig in shit. And we're talking about a playoff game, and will probably be going to Baltimore, is what I'd imagine. We'll be coming here. Hey, man.
Are you going to go to that game if they go to Baltimore?
We'll see. It's easier said than done.
Dude, have you seen how much tickets are dropping? They're dropping like the temperature in Kansas City right now.
Yeah, no, it's not about going. It's about central booking here in Baltimore is one of the worst jails in the country.
Okay, you don't want to end up there. Let me ask you this. Would you be shocked if the Arrowhead was emptier than what people expect because of the temperature?
Reason they could get me a private plane to pick me up from my house and take me to that game, and I'm not going to that game. I don't know who wants to go out there.
I heard like good tickets. Someone came up here on the show yesterday. They were, I want to say, second or first row, 40-yard line. They paid $275 for the pair.
Wow, there'll be idiots probably going shirtless and stupid shit like that there.
He said he was going shirtless.
Yeah, good luck with that, man. I'll tell you what.
$275 to watch your nipples fall off in real time, bud.
Yeah, dude. At 41 years old, man, I don't have any toughness to prove to anyone. My ass is not getting near that. To see those temperatures, honestly, man, it's kind of like a joke to me. I've never seen that type of cold projected in my entire life.
And the quarterback room are not bringing Marino's isotoner gloves.
No way.
Shout out to Alf. He says 3 yards per carry will be
wow.
represented. Because I think Simon's going out there. I think Simon's going out there. I saw on Twitter.
That's a brave soul, man. Woof.
That is a brave man. Tell him to, pack some hot cocoa and dress in 5 layers. So, guys, I'm gonna be back tomorrow around 2:00. I'll preview the game. Hopefully, hey, tune in for the post-game show after the live reaction, and you'll get Neal's reaction either way, whether it's up here in the chat. It's gonna be worth it. Fins up, smash the like button on the way out. Appreciate y'all, and we'll see y'all in the next one. Take it easy, guys and gals.